Here we go. This should only take about 15 minutes. Give you time at the end to ask questions if you have them.
Yes.
Okay. Amending the Constitution.
Wait, are you recording?
It's recording. We're on.
Are you recording me right now?
Do you want to say something, Adrian? Yes, we're going to do the amendments now. Okay. So there are two ways that you can amend the Constitution. Okay. They are as follows. All right. The first thing that must happen is you must propose a change. This can be done in one of two ways. All right. The first way is a 2/3 vote in both the House and the Senate. Okay. So you have to go 2/3 the House, 2/3 the Senate. Okay. Or you can call a national convention. All right. Of which is called by 2/3 of state legislatures. So, to pass a regular bill, it's only 50%, right? It's majority. Just to propose the amendment change is 2/3, okay? And then, if you're going to ratify it, again, you have two ways to do it, okay? It can either be state legislatures of 3/4 of the states, or conventions of 3/4 of the states. The idea behind this is that if you are going to change the Constitution, it needs to be an overwhelming majority of the United States agreeing to do this. All right? So when we talk about constitutional amendments and people are saying like, oh, we should change the Constitution to do this and this and this, it's hard to do. It's not that hard for states. For states, it's oftentimes just a majority vote. I don't think we have any constitutional amendments on the ballot.
Yes, we do.
What is it?
The one about bars and restaurants.
That is just that's just for the city,
Right, but still.
right? So
But
it's
it's still on the ballot.
but it's not constitutional.
What's the rule?
Everett Naylor. So, what was that?
What's the rule about that?
It's like regulating the amount of bars and restaurants you can have. Or no, it's regulating when you classify a restaurant as a bar, like food and alcohol prices. Like you have to sell 3 times the amount of food that you do alcohol.
Okay.
And so restaurants like Broder's, like if they have a wine bar, and someone gets a foreign beer and just a burger, then they're not going to be able to go to those standards. So it's an unfair rule.
It is likely going to pass. There is absolutely zero. There has been zero opposition to it. So it would be pretty surprising if it didn't pass. But
So an example of this 3/4 state legislation. Yeah, like
so
gay
if
marriage.
so, gay marriage. What would have to happen is if you wanted to see gay marriage become a constitutional amendment, all right. What would have to happen is that the House and the Senate, both sides would have to go 2/3,
Which is terribly hard.
which is hard to do, or 2/3 of state legislatures would have to call a national convention. So bring everyone together. If that happens, then the vote is that state legislature goes to the states. 3/4 of the states would have to approve of the change.
So
Okay.
just because 3/4 of the states is legal for gay people to get married doesn't mean they would be.
It would have to be it would have to do it again for the Constitution, right? Or you'd have to have conventions in 3/4 of the states approve it. It's hard to do, getting people together, like calling a convention. Okay? It's not easy to do. Okay? And that's designed. You don't want to be changing the Constitution, right? As we saw in the Simpsons video today, right? Federal supremacy, again, is the concept that the federal government trumps the state government, right? Which is also significant. All right. Any questions about those? So the Bill of Rights, okay? There are 27 amendments.
Is the Bill of Rights?
Correct. This is the amendments. There are 27 amendments to the Bill of Rights. The first 10 to the Constitution are the Bill of Rights. Those first 10 were instituted during the first Congress, which is what we talked about today, right? So those first 10 come right away. The remaining 17 of them would be after the fact. So if a question is how many times has the Constitution been amended, it would be 27 times. Yeah, Bradley.
To take away an amendment, do you have to have another amendment?
Yes, we'll talk about that in a second. Okay? So, the first 10, the Bill of Rights, are viewed as being the most important rights that we have as American citizens, right? Yeah. Yes. So why is it called the Bill of Rights? Yeah. So this is not to do with the law, right? This is just as they say, the Bill of Rights. It's like a list, right? Is what they're saying here. All right. So I'm going to go through what they are, so you guys have them. The First Amendment are our basic rights. Okay. What are they? 5 of them. Anyone know?
Right to bear arms.
Speech. Nope.
Press.
Speech. Press.
These in order?
Religion.
This is just number 1.
Prohibits the making of any law respecting the
Stop it.
establishment.
Other 2.
Life, speech, and press,
Speech.
Petitioning for
Press.
governmental
Religion.
redress.
Petition.
party.
And
The right to turn out.
assembly. Okay? So what this allows you to do is it allows you free speech, it allows you freedom of the press, the freedom of religion, to practice any religion you want, the right to petition, and the right to assemble. Okay? Those are all First Amendment rights. All right? 2
Arm bears.
is the right to bear arms. This is the most controversial of the amendments for obvious reasons. We've seen so much. You have a lot of discussion of what it actually says. The amendment itself says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. So you get a lot of people arguing that the anti-gun people will say that is actually involving a militia. The pro-gun people think that the second half of it is the important part, where it simply says the right to bear arms. That being said, it is number 2. So when we talk about gun control, this is something that has been key to the United States for years and years and years and years. Okay? Number 3 is a quartering act, where you are not allowed, you do not have to quarter other soldiers. This is the most irrelevant of the Bill of Rights, as we've not had this issue since the Revolutionary War. But to make it number 3 tells us how important it was at the time. Question about that?
So that's just a shot at the intolerable acts.
Yes, it is. It is a direct.
You're missing a number.
I know. I'm not, because I don't need you to know that one.
Sweet.
Okay.
I'm fitting on it anyway.
4.
We're all gonna do it.
Search and seizure. Okay. This is the amendment that says that you are not allowed, or the government or a police officer is not allowed to search your home without a warrant, search your vehicle without a warrant. They're not allowed to take anything without a warrant. If a cop pulls you over and you've done nothing wrong and asks to search your car, you can say no. If you say no, obviously you are facing potential repercussions for doing so, but you are in your rights, if you have done nothing wrong, to tell him to not, for you to say, you cannot search my vehicle. You cannot take my stuff. If they have probable cause, then they can do so. So if you roll down your window and a cloud of smoke comes out of your car, then the police could say, I'm going to search your car, right? If you are pulled over and there's a gun sitting on your passenger seat, the cop can search your car. But if there's none of that, right? If you've been pulled over for, let's say, having a broken taillight, okay, and the cop wants to search your car, that is something that is kind of questionable. If you've done nothing wrong, it's good to do that, but there are obvious reasons, and we've seen this for many different examples of police overstepping their boundaries, right? Where we talk about, search and seizure as being important. But if they don't have a warrant, they cannot come into your home and search your stuff, okay? Number 5. Number 5 is, you guys have heard the phrase, I'm going to plead the fifth, right? So what this is, okay, is that you must be formally charged with a crime, okay? You cannot be tried twice for the same crime. So a good example of this would be O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson is found not guilty of murder, and he is then found guilty in a civil court, which involves money, but you cannot be tried for the same crime twice. Another example, Emmett Till, when the guys were found not guilty of killing Emmett Till and then walk out and say that they killed him and sell their story to Jet Magazine, they cannot be tried again for that case. All right, so no double jeopardy. And you must...
But then couldn't they be tried for lying in a court of law?
Yes, but that's a totally different... Right, I mean, that's...
Separate.
So which is why you will see you're not going to... Oftentimes prosecutors won't prosecute a case unless they're sure they can do it, because you know that you only get one shot at it. Okay? The other thing is that you have... You have the right to remain silent, meaning that you do not have to testify against yourself. If you did kill somebody and you go to court and they put you on the stand, you do not have to say anything. You can just keep your mouth shut. Okay? You go like this? Did not say it. No, you can. You have the right to not not testify against yourself. Okay. 6 and 7. All right. 6 and 7 is trial by jury. Okay.
What's the difference between the two?
What's that?
What's the difference between
They're kind of combined in there. 7 is involving. So 7 is really the trial by jury, but it is what it says is basically that if you have a crime that is committed that is over $20, then you have the right to a trial by jury. So it basically just becomes you have the right to a trial by jury.
Like if
If you steal gum, right? If you steal gum, then you don't have to do it. All right.
That's why
So it's trial by jury, right to an attorney. Right? You are automatically guaranteed the right to an attorney, and you have the right to confront a witness. So if somebody sees you kill someone or sees you commit a crime, you have the ability in court to question that person. Okay? That person on the flip side does not have to say anything if they don't want to, but you have the right to do it. What's that? That's the Miranda rights. That's different. Okay? That's a different thing. 8. No excessive bail. Okay?
Wait, what? Oh, I thought you said male.
Bail. So if you steal that pack of gum, you cannot be held with a $500,000 bail. Okay? It had to be right. It would have to be what it's worth, right? A judge. Okay? And also no cruel or unusual punishment.
What if I was to steal the last pack of gum? Like, wouldn't that be more?
No, the price tag.
Yes, if you steal the last pack of gum,
What is that
then you
word?
could be held for $1 million bail. Okay? No cruel and unusual punishment, meaning that if you do steal that gum, you cannot be given a 20-year sentence. Okay? You cannot be tortured. You cannot have things like that. Okay? Number 9 are the enumerated rights. Okay? What this means is that you have rights that are not listed in the Constitution. You have the right to get married. this is an interesting one that's coming up right now that people argue, is that heterosexuals can get married. Homosexuals cannot get married, and that's where the argument is that it is not constitutional, because straight people can get married, right? You have the right to parent. You have the right to get a driver's license. You have certain rights that are not listed in there that are automatically there, okay? And number 10 are powers reserved to the states. Any right that is not specifically listed within the Constitution is given to the states to make their own decisions.
Can you repeat what you just said?
Yep. So if there is a law that is not, if there's something that is not specifically listed in the Constitution, the states have the ability to make those laws. For example, speed limit, right? There is no federal speed limit, so states can determine what the speed limit is going to be. Sales tax. We don't have sales tax. Wisconsin does have sales tax. Okay? All right, so those are the 10 big ones. Any questions about those? I would know, these are rights that I think are good to get down at some point, right? 1, you should know. 2, I think you probably know off the top of your head, right? If you can kind of get the basic gist of them, they're important. You don't necessarily have to memorize these for this test, right? Except for 1. I want you to have 1 down, okay? The First Amendment, all right? I'm going to go through the rest of these and kind of highlight the big items, okay? And I'll let you know kind of what's happening. 12 ends up being about the election of the president and the vice president, figures out how to do that. We're going to talk about that in class later on. The next big ones are 13 through 15, which are the civil rights laws. Okay. 13 abolishes slavery. 14 provides citizenship for all people born in the United States. And 15 is the right to vote for African Americans. All right? Those are citizenship.
Well, for any based on race.
Right to vote. Or about abolition of slavery.
14 is that what I'm saying?
13 is slavery. 14 is citizenship. 15 is the right to vote.
For
African and for any race, not women. Okay? So those all are 1865 to 1870. Those are directly following the Civil War. Okay? Those are your civil rights amendments. Okay? After that, there are no amendments for about 40 years. All right? Then you get to 16 through 19, which are the progressive amendments. When you hear people complain that Obama is a progressive, might have heard that, they're talking about this sort of stuff, where they are saying that this is a negative thing. Okay? 16 creates an income tax. And the purpose of income tax, right, is that the more money you make, the more you pay. So that's why that's considered progressive.
Everyone pays the same taxes.
Correct.
Oh, wow.
Okay? 17, well, no, there was no income tax. There was not an income tax. There was just a tax, right? 17 is direct election of senators. We talked about this in class today, right? It's not until 1913 that the people do that. 18. Yes. 18 is prohibition. No drinking in the United States. 19 is women's suffrage. The right to vote. Women do not get that right to vote until 1920. 17 is direct election of senators.
No, that's
Okay.
process. Mr. Gross.
Yeah.
So if the amendment gets passed in February, do you wait till the next year for it to be instated?
No.
It right away once
Happens.
it's passed.
Yep.
Right.
Happens. Okay? So those are the progressives. The 20th Amendment is the repeal of prohibition. What this means, okay? The 20th Amendment gets rid of the 18th Amendment. All right? So as Brendan, you asked earlier, right? You can get rid of an amendment by creating a new amendment.
21st.
The 20th.
Is it harder to get around?
Sorry, that's 21.
Yep.
I skipped one.
I'm on.
20th.
Is it harder to get a repeal?
It depends on how the people are thinking, right? 20 is the president used to take over in March. They move it to January. So there's just less time in between. You don't have to know that one. 21 is the repeal of prohibition. Okay? 22 is term limits. Previous to Franklin Roosevelt, all presidents only served for 2 terms because Washington set that precedent. FDR serves 4 terms during World War II, and they determined they want to make it just 4 years. Okay. 23 involves electors in D.C. Not that important. 24 is no poll tax. Number 25 involves the president if the president is unable to serve. And what this is basically talking about is it's coming after the Kennedy assassination when there was this moment where Kennedy wasn't dead. And what do you do if you're unable for your president to be actually, if something happens where you need someone to make a decision? So now if, say, Obama was to need surgery and have to go under, right, have to get general anesthesia, Biden would take over at that time. Happened with George Bush and Dick Cheney a couple times. So, and when Reagan was shot.
Would it be the same? Would it be the same process we talked about with
Yeah, like the prom party.
so then if Biden can?
Yes, but again, these are temporary moments, right? 26 is the voting age. Goes to 18 from 21. This is a Vietnam era issue when they were sending 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds to go fight in Vietnam, but they were not able to vote. And so the voting age was lowered there. And number 27, which happens in 1992, which is our last amendment. It was originally proposed in 1789. It was one of the original 17. It finally gets passed. And what this is involves congressional salary.
1789.
It was originally proposed in 1789, passed in 1992. What that says is that if Congress wants to change their salary, it will not go into effect until the next term.
Wow.
So meaning that if I'm a senator and I say, I want to raise my salary by $50,000, I have to go through another election
2 years.
in order for that to pass.
That was
right.
Refraction for 202 years.
It was in there for a while.
But even if he did get reelected, he still has to get that passed.
No, so if it passes, right? So if it passes, it will go in the next, once it passes, it's going to start, but it just means that everyone who voted for it has to be reelected. And you can imagine that right now, for example, if Congress was to say, we're going to give ourselves a 20% pay raise, the American people would probably be pretty upset by that. Right?
Sweet.
Okay, those are your amendments. Are there any questions that you guys have?